So, second lead syndrome bitch slapped me in the face and then beat me to death over the course of the 16 episodes. This was after I had finished contemplating whether I was Team Psycho Sunbae or Team Inho. Spoiler alert, I was not on Team Psycho Sunbae. Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. This is my 100% honest, most likely unpopular opinion about Cheese in the Trap. And if you guys have not watched Cheese in the Trap, I have to alert you guys to the fact that there are potential spoilers coming up in this video. Everyone says Cheese in the Trap is really, really great and you should watch it because it's amazing. And all of the commenters on Weightlifting Fairy Kim Bokju over on Viki were like, oh my god, you have to watch Cheese in the Trap after you watch Weightlifting Fairy, it's so amazing. And I was like, okay, fine, okay. Because, you know, I was kind of struggling with what to watch next anyway, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll do as you have directed, we'll do it that way. I wasn't too sure at first when I started watching the show. I think a large part of that had to do with the fact that I just watched Weightlifting Fairy Kim Bokju and I completely loved it, and it was funny and it was entertaining and was generally a lighter tone than this one. I wasn't 100% sure what to expect from Cheese in the Trap. The way people kept telling you to watch it after you'd watched Weightlifting Fairy made me think that it was going to be really similar. A college rom-com and it's going to be cute and there's going to be fluffy moments. I was not expecting it to be as kind of dark and serious as it is, but I thought I'd give it a go. My general rule for anything anime, TV show, K-drama is 5 episodes. 5 episodes, and if it hasn't grabbed me, I'm out. So I persevered and I carried on watching, and I have to say, the main thought in my head throughout the first few episodes is, what the fuck is up with this dude? Like, I wanted to smack him, and I was kind of watching him and I was just like, is he a serial killer? But the first few episodes were kind of a whirlwind because a lot happens in those first few episodes, and you have Sol's point of view and you see him through her eyes, and obviously she thinks he's out to get her, which isn't necessarily wrong on her part, but there was a bit of a misunderstanding at the beginning. I really feel like what this series did well was have Sol be a quite obviously biased narrator, so you're kind of tainted and biased towards what she's thinking and feeling, but as you go along you see little bits kind of thrown in that add up and kind of make your opinion change a little bit. What I was expecting was to see Sunbae's past and his childhood and realise that he's misunderstood and that there's a very genuine, valid reason for everything he does, or that everything he does isn't as bad as it was being made out to be seen, but that did not happen for me. We have Sol, she is our main female lead character. I really felt for her. She had a lot to deal with. She's kind of working part-time jobs to pay her way through university because her parents kind of only really seem to care about her brother's education. Her character is very much kind of quiet. She is constantly apologising. She caves and says yes to everything everyone wants her to do. We kind of, throughout the series, see her kind of grow and change, and she kind of sheds that a little bit and stands up for herself more. We get to see 2 different sides of Sol, and it's dependent on who she is with. When she's with Inho, she kind of starts to become a bit more fiery, she talks back, they have some brilliant banter. But when she's with Sunbae, she's a lot more quieter, a lot more timid, and she's constantly apologising to him, and I kind of was just like, why? But at one point, she did start to annoy me. Why did she annoy me? Because she kind of started going along with whatever Sunbae said, and I was just kind of like, okay, so you both think this behaviour's okay, right? Can't get behind that, which makes it kind of hard to like you. I feel like a lot of the misunderstandings on what happened in this series could have been avoided if she had just stopped leaving her shit lying about. Like, she leaves the computer open and doesn't like log herself out, and then she just leaves her shit lying everywhere in the library, and it's just like, what planet are you from? Her 2 BFFs were completely hilarious. They were Bora and Untek. They were complete and utter friendship goals. I also really shipped the 2 of them so bad, and quite frankly they were the only unproblematic relationship in the whole show. Psycho Sunbae, who I'm referring to as Sunbae because it's kind of ingrained in my brain because never once did I hear Sol call him by his actual name. He gave me Light Yamagami vibes, but even Light was more likeable than this dude. He's kind of nice if you squint and ignore the stalker-like tendencies that he occasionally exhibits. Lurking appears to be one of Sunbae's favourite pastimes, along with, you know, exacting petty, spiteful vengeance. Like, at one point in episode 2, a load of the Viki commenters were like, oh, look, he's so heartbroken. Oh, Sunbae, he's so heartbroken. And I'm just sitting there like, how the fuck did he know where she lived? Because of the way he's portrayed in the first few episodes, I feel like I couldn't unsee the creepiness, and the creepy music that played whenever he was on screen really didn't help the issue, and he basically ended up coming across a bit serial killery. He ticked so many serial killer boxes, and I had the thought more than once as I was watching the show that he came across as the kind of guy that if you leave him, he will kill you and bury you under his patio. I have to point out that alongside the serial killer vibes, he did provide a few moments of hilarity throughout the series. He was like a little alien at some points, like he didn't know what a coupon was or how to make it work. He was literally like a little alien that's come down from Mars and is on Earth with no idea what the fuck he's doing, and has kind of been taken under Sol's wing, and she's having to teach him how to be a normal person. In one of the more ridiculously hilarious moments that kind of had me snort more out of like, what, than anything else, he appeared to think that a leaf was good camouflage. Just one. He didn't think anyone could see him, but we could. For the first few episodes, I do admit I was torn, but about halfway through the show, I started to really dislike him. First off, he told Sol to do as I say. Nah, mate. That was an immediate warning, ringing bell in my mind. The more you saw of his actions and what he was doing, the more he came across as petty, bratty, sulky. On some level, I get that he's misunderstood. I really do. I get it. He struggles to show his emotions. He struggles to be normal, if you want to call it that. But some of what he does just is not okay, and I feel like the punishment he doles out does not fit the crime. He kind of goes around like this little vigilante, punishing people for slights against him or slights against Sol. He achieves all of this through manipulation. For me, episode 12 was the turning point when I stopped being taught about him and was just like, no. Spoiler alert, episode 12 is when we saw the whole situation with Inho's hand. Sunbae manipulated the entire situation and Inho took the blame for it. He got the shit beaten out of him, and then that nerdy ass little piano freak broke his hand with a metal baseball bat. And Sunbae just stood there and watched the whole thing happen, and it was from that point that I was completely done with him, and I was like, do you know what? I don't like you. I don't think we can even remotely entertain the idea that I am ever going to be Team Psycho Sunbae again now. I'm also kind of low-key sure that Inho said that stuff to the nerdy little piano freak to kind of keep him away from Sunbae because he recognised that the dude was literally just out to use Sunbae. I don't know, he's just... everything is just very black and white to him. There's no room for grey areas. Douchebags, and dealing with them, are a part of life. You will encounter them everywhere. You will have to put up with them and deal with them everywhere, but he doesn't appear to have learned this lesson. The next character I want to talk about is Inho. He is our second male lead, and he is our eye candy for the show, or at least he was mine. Inho is one of those people who is kind of totally sweet but with slight arsehole tendencies that you can overlook because he is kind of adorable at points. He is completely extra and he really doesn't mince his words, and I genuinely loved his character so much. As you've probably guessed, I shipped Sol and Inho more than I shipped her and Sunbae, which was incredibly awkward because I was sat there at one point like, right, I don't ship the main couple at all. I ship her and the second male lead, which is not going to happen, but it did give me time to prepare myself for that disappointment. The thing with Inho is that, yes, he did things and said things he shouldn't have said, but so has Sunbae. Yet no one seems to care about all of the crappy things that Sunbae's done, but everyone's jumping on Inho for everything he's done. I really appreciated that after seeing kind of what he used to be like, you could see how much he kind of grown and changed, and it was such a contrast to Sunbae, who appeared to not have changed at all. The final character I want to discuss briefly is Inha. She is Inho's sister. In the beginning, she really reminded me of Sharpay Evans, or one of the other kind of rich, privileged socialite girls from a Disney TV show or movie. She is a full-on gold digger, but her acting was on point. I'd literally just seen her in Weightlifting Fairy, and this was such a contrast in characters. It really proved her range and showed the different things she could do. As much as she made me laugh at points, she is a pretty dislikable character. Like, I hated how instead of taking the opportunity she'd been given, she was just content to kind of take all of Inho's money. She would just show up and take his entire pay packet. It was a bit like, can you please sort your shit out, love? But later on in the series, I really empathised with her and I understood her. You obviously come to see why she and Inho are the way they are. Sunbae's dad is a prize arsehole, basically, is the reason. Inho and Inha, their parents died, they were taken in, they had an abusive relative looking after them, and Sunbae's dad kind of, took these kids and he was like, do you know what, I'm going to take you into my house, I'll even consider adopting you, I'll give you a family, everything's great now. But he only cared about them as long as they were useful to him and Sunbae. When they stopped being useful, he basically didn't want anything to do with them anymore, and he kind of just ripped that all away from Inha at one point, and that is really what pushed her over the edge, and I can completely understand where she is coming from. As for the supporting cast, there is a whole host of shitty characters for you to enjoy and get annoyed at. We have the standard bitchy girl. There was nothing particularly redeemable about her, and she vanished after a few episodes. She was just nasty. One of the Sunbaes got right on my last nerve throughout the entire series up until the end, and I got so frustrated with him that while we'd seen some things that were supposed to make us kind of understand him and empathise with him, it really wasn't enough. He basically wants to graduate and get a good job, but he doesn't want to do any of the work. He just got away with so much, and it just annoyed me how much he got away with, and everyone just kind of let it slide because it's just, oh, it's what Sunbae does. No. And then we have the stalker and the clone. I actually felt sorry for the stalker at one point when he was trying to expose Sunbae, until of course he talked to the weird Sae-sang copycat girl who was basically trying to be Seoul and gave her this little victim mentality where he was like, yeah, you're completely justified in what you're doing, Seoul's the one copying you. That's when I was like, okay dude, you're out. Initially he didn't seem that bad until he went full crazy ass stalker, and it was like, please just have a day off, mate. As for the acting, I feel like the acting was really on point, particularly from Sunbae's actor, as much as I didn't like the character. He did really well at portraying this kind of quiet scariness, plus there was the overall sense of creepiness that radiated from him at all times. The acting from the two siblings I also felt was really good. I am undecided on the actress who plays Seoul. The plot progresses really well at the start. The first few episodes, a lot happens. There's a really fast pace. Then we reached a point in the series, not quite halfway through, when I kind of got pretty bored because not much was really happening and I wasn't really down with Sunbae. Like, I was really struggling to carry on watching it, to the extent that I was debating dropping it. Obviously I made it all the way through to the end, but a lot of the time I was forcing myself to watch episodes. Plus I was mostly sticking it out because I was waiting for the great redemption of Sunbae that never happened, at least for me. There were a few reasons I didn't like and get on with this show. Like I said, it didn't make me want to binge watch it. I struggled to get through it. I was bored at points. I did not ship the main character. You could say it's realistic in the sense that it's showing college life and it's not all sunshine and rainbows, which it isn't. It is hard. You do have to deal with crappy people. But I feel like this was a bit too much, maybe? Let's just say it really puts the drama in Kdrama. I was struggling a lot because of Sunbae, and all I saw was a petty, spiteful man-child. Sure, he had a rough time growing up. I really didn't buy that it was a rough time for him. About halfway through the show, we shift to Inho and Inha, and there's a lot more focus on them, and I ended up connecting with them a hell of a lot more than I connected with Sunbae and Seoul, in the sense that I felt for them more and I understood them and where they were coming from. Sunbae's whole justification for his behaviour towards them and why he is the way he is that his dad had the siblings reporting to him about what Sunbae was doing. Not that Inho knew what was going on or that is what was happening. You could argue that he probably should have figured it out, but he didn't. Inha was doing it, but I could get and understand why she would do that if she thought that if she didn't, this new safe life was going to be taken away from her. His other justification was Inho saying the same crap teenagers have said universally, worldwide, without engaging their brain with their mouth. I get why he'd be upset that his dad wants to adopt them. It came right after Inho had said something upsetting to Sunbae, but it was not enough to show me true justification and make me look at Sunbae and go, okay, I get it now. He ruined people's lives. He set a stalker on Seoul, which he somehow never took responsibility for, and Seoul appeared to be okay with it in the end. I'm not in any way justifying what Inha did, but I understand why she did it. I understand why she snapped. And you know what? She actually felt remorse. You could see when it happened, you could see the split second shot of her face where you could see the instant regret, you could see the remorse, you could see she didn't mean to do it. Whereas Sunbae, not so much. I think the icing on the cake for me that had me so done with this series was when Sunbae still wasn't taking responsibility right up until the end. He blamed Inho for what happened to Sol, when if you want to point fingers, it was actually his fault because he'd started all of this with his manipulating. Right at the end, and I'm talking right at the end, episode 12, he finally realised he was wrong. He recognised he had a victim mentality, but were there any apologies? No. Yet he kept banging on about Inha having to take responsibility for what she'd done when he never did the exact same thing, and honestly I feel like those realisations for him came way too late in the series. Like, he allegedly understood that he'd stomped on their hearts and emotions, but did he do anything about it? No. I think it says it all about his character that Inho actually apologised to him for not knowing that they'd done him harm, but Sunbae never turned around and apologised to Inho. It started out quite strong and intriguing, but then it lost me halfway through. The switch to the siblings' point of view and their story and how you came to understand them so well made me feel for them and root for them more than the two main leads. And by the end, both main leads just annoyed me, and I really feel like that might have been an error on the writer's part. I liked how it was shot, but I wasn't here for the romance either, which should be glaringly obvious. I feel like Inho was a lot better for her than Sunbae was. I feel like Sunbae needed her more than she needed him. I did like the ending, although I was kind of disappointed that Inha didn't seem to get back into art, because I was hoping that would be the path she took. The ending is also left kind of ambiguous with the main couple. Spoiler alert, they broke up and he went off to do whatever. I lost track because I stopped caring at that point. So yeah, let me know down below what your thoughts were on Cheese in the Trap. If you have watched it, let's theorise together, let's talk this out. I want to know if I'm the only one who felt this way, or if everyone freaking loved this show except for me. I will link all of my social media down below too, so you can catch up with me on Twitter and see what I'm watching now, and I will see you guys soon.